Zohar 12.195 and the Toledot Yeshu. What is the Toledot Yeshu? The Toledot Yeshu is the Jewish name for the Hebrew Gospel of Matityahu, but sadly, this name was also taken by apostates and other enemies of Judaism and fraudulently given to slanderous anti-Judaic propaganda based on twisting the meanings of the Telia to throw against the Hasidei Umat Ha'olam and sully the reputation of the Jews. And it's disgusting that this is not the way it's described on Wikipedia. You've got so many people pretending to be Jews on Wikipedia saying, oh, I'm a Jew, it doesn't offend me, promoting it and pushing it. And they've been doing that since Wikipedia began in the early 2000s. And still is being promoted around the world as if it's not a set of anti-Semitic slanders against the Telia. And using the Toledot Yeshu, the title taken from the Hebrew Gospel of Matityahu, which is Shem Tov's Matityahu, or Hebrew Matthew, or the Gospel of the Hebrews, different ways of referring to the same thing. So that's what's happened. And worse still, since World War II, this propaganda has become more well-known among Jews than the original Toledot Yeshu and the original Telia themselves. That's the sad fact of the matter. But that is what Toledot Yeshu means. So you can't always tell when you see someone before World War II making reference to Toledot Yeshu. You can't always tell if it's a Jew. Are they referring to Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, or are they referring to the Talia? And you can only really tell by looking at what it is they're saying about the Toledot Yeshu. Then you can get a clearer idea. Okay, so that's the Toledot Yeshu. So why call Jesus of Nazareth Yeshu or Yoshke? Well, you might have heard him being called Yoshka, and Yeshu HaNotzri. Well, as it is written in the Sefer Hasidim, as it is written in the Sefer Hasidim, part 191, quote, even a tzaddik, that's almost like a perfect human being who is doing everything that God wants them to do, and almost like a pane of glass through which the divine is shining to the world. Even a tzaddik, a saint, if you like, or ultra saint, who they, the non-believers, make into a deity, it is a mitzvah to call a derogatory name. Okay, even if it's a Jewish tzaddik who the non-Jews make into a deity, it's a mitzvah to call a derogatory name. So, for example, if non-Jews out there made Moses, Moshe, okay, Rabbeinu Moshe, into a deity, it would be a mitzvah to call Moshe by a derogatory name, according to the Sefer Hasidism, the Sefer Hasidim 191. Okay, so it's just we have to do that. For example, Shimon Kippur should be called Peter Chamur. Okay, this is an example because people pray to Shimon Kippur as a saint, so it should be called Peter Chamur. This is to respect the partial hardening of Israel referred to in the Evangelion, Romans 11:25. This partial hardening will end on the day of his redemption, which is referred to in Isaiah 63. So it was necessary to use the name Yeshu as well to split from Israel those Notzrim who followed the other Yoshke. Yeshu Notzri, aka Ben Stada, aka is otherwise known as Ben Stada, sometimes associated with the school of the third Yoshke, who is actually the student of Ben Perachia. Okay, so there are three Yoshkas, three Yeshus, Yeshu HaNotzris, or three Ben Pandras, mentioned in Jewish tradition. One of them was about 100 BC, and he was the student of Ben Perachia. He was exiled when Yannius Alexander had a crackdown on the Pharisees, and they had to run away to Egypt. And when he came back from Egypt with his teacher. He was invited by Shimon Shetach, who is the brother of Queen Alexandra, the widowed wife of King Yannius Alexander. And when he came back, then he was cut off by his teacher for a while. And on the day that his teacher decided to accept him back, he misunderstood what his teacher was doing, and he decided to go off and become an Elagabelite, the people who worship the Betelis. That's the stone which Jacob poured oil on, anointed as the stairway to heaven when he had the dream, Bethel. So that was the first Yeshu Notzri. Okay, then you've got Jesus of Nazareth, who you all know, and then you've got Ben Stada, the third. So 1, 2, 3. Ben Stada is the son of Miriam Magdalena, who became a leader amongst the Notzrim. Okay, and so you've got three of them. So in order to split from Israel those Notzrim who had followed the other Yoshkas, for example, Yeshu Notzri, aka Ben Stada, and the other Yoshka, the student of Ben Parachia, it was necessary to refer to Jesus of Nazareth as Yeshu. It's a necessary action that had to be taken. So there are a few reasons why we have to refer to Jesus of Nazareth as Yeshu, or have had to do so originally from the beginning. Okay. If you have any questions, please do post them in the chat, or you can post them underneath the video afterwards. You can also email me, and we can explain in more detail. So who are these Nazarenes that's so necessary to split them off? The Nazarenes are Luciferian, royalist sons of Israel who secretly did things against the Lord, as it says in 2 Kings 17. And they must be converted to Pavlut. According to the Jewish tradition, they must be split off from Israel and converted to Pavlut. It's necessary to do that. It's actually the right thing to do in Judaism, to split these Nazarenes away from Israel, even though they are sons of Israel. Because they did secret things against the Lord, they must be converted to Pavlut. And that's the reason why Pavlut was established, really. The Judaic term Nazri is a mockery of the term Netzari, which means a royalist who follows the royal scions, or the Netzarim of the house of Jesse. Okay, any of the royal scions of the house of Jesse are called Netzarim, and those who follow the Netzarim are called Netzari. Okay, and Nazri is a mockery of this term, because they were associated with the northern tribes of Israel who went astray, and they almost worshipped their king. You see. So these are the Nazarenes. This is who they are historically. They call themselves Nasorai, but were called Nazarenes by Pliny the Elder, and Nasorioi by Epiphanius, who both described their existence many decades before Jesus of Nazareth was born. So both of them said that these people existed many decades before Jesus of Nazareth was born, or at least they describe the existence of these people. They describe them existing many decades before Jesus of Nazareth was born. So obviously nothing to do with Jesus of Nazareth. He wasn't behind them. He didn't start them. But he might have been from them, because Nazareth seems to have been named after them, and it was a northern town, and the Nazarim were associated with the north. The Nazarim standing up on Mount Ephraim refers to the Netzarim, but the Netzarim who were somehow had gone astray are called Nazarim in Jeremiah, standing on Mount Ephraim. So they come down from the north, you see. So there may have been, it's probable actually that Nazareth was named after them. And hence, when people hear that Jesus comes from Nazareth, they say, Nazareth, can any good come from Nazareth? Because it's like, oh my goodness, he's coming from the Nazarim, those Luciferian royalists, sons of Israel who secretly did things against the Lord. And they say, come and see. And of course, when Jesus went to Nazareth and tried to preach to these people, having him himself actually gone through a giul l'chumra, a conversion of stringency, to remove any stigma of the being it from Nazareth and in the wrong sort of sect, which is, by the way, something that the Messiah has to be in. He has to be in the wrong sect before he comes to the right sect, according to Judaism. In order to remove that stigma, he goes through the giul l'chumra, the baptism of John, to fulfill all righteousness. And then he goes, of course, to try and preach to the people in Nazareth. They try to kill him. They try to throw him off a cliff. So they totally rejected him. But his mission was to them, according to the Judaic tradition anyway. Now, Mandeans, Marcionites, Valentinians, Manichaeans, and even Alawites can all be identified as Nazarim. Okay? They're all kinds of Gnostic, you might have noticed, but none of them are Jewish Gnostics. It's not Gnostic Judaism. It's the other kind of Gnosticism. The Gnosticism which rejects the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and makes up its own stories instead. So anyway, despite their sins, they lived under the blessings of the patriarchs for 1,000 generations. You know, that's what God does. He remembers the blessings for those who do good unto 1,000 generations. And so these Nazarim were living okay despite their sins for 1,000 generations until, quote unquote, the axe was laid at the root of the trees. That's in Matthew chapter 3, verse 10. Which means that their time had run out, and that interpretation comes from Rav Eliyahu Tzvi Soloveitchik, who gives that interpretation, and he's actually from this tradition, from the teachers of Nazareth, if you like. He was a regular Orthodox Jew, but he was a teacher of Nazareth and hoped to do something for the Christians. But as is usually the case, whenever we try, it doesn't really have much impact. But let's see how much impact we can make from this channel and see if anyone is paying attention, if anyone is listening.